It had hung there for almost 2 years, just like the others on either side. No better, no worse, nothing to set it apart. Why they chose him of all things remained a mystery he would never solve. In his dormant existence, suspended in that fluorescent limbo, he suddenly felt movement and saw brilliant light. Gentle hands lifted him from the plastic hanger where he had believed himself condemned for eternity. Then he was draped over something soft yet firm, something that moved continuously with its curves and limbs, something warm and faintly damp. For the first time, he saw himself in a large piece of reflective glass. A mirror, they called it. He felt himself filling with an unknown force, felt the thrill of movement and purpose. Every crease smoothed out, every seam became a taut nerve, and it seemed that instead of mere lining, he had grown a delicate soul. He had been chosen, and the man in the mirror liked what he saw. This was real life. Each morning, they would take him from his new home, a dark wooden wardrobe, brush him gently to remove stray hairs and flakes, and then out into the world. Compliments floated his way. He carried the scent of expensive cologne. He even acquired what felt like personal possessions. In the left pocket, a comb carved from imported wood. In the right, his pride and joy, a cell phone that hummed with electronic melodies and voices. The women's voices pleased him most. They asked for meetings, murmured like streams, laughed like bells. He attended many of these meetings, but after the tender touches that made his fabric tingle with static, he usually found himself draped over the back of a chair, tossed on a sofa's armrest, or once, even crumpled on the floor. He didn't mind. It meant he was living. The galas and banquets were his favorite. He would exchange glances with his brothers, other fine jackets on important men, each proud of the figure he cut, each striving to look distinguished. The happiest moments came during the toasts. Arms rose together, glasses clinked, and in that motion, sleeves brushed against sleeves. It was almost ecstasy, that feeling of unity, of belonging to something greater. In those brief touches, he felt power and purpose. Sometimes, during vacations, they hung him in the dark wardrobe for weeks. He would sulk, even feel jealous of the tracksuit that got to be worn instead. On his curved hanger, he would replay memories of his glamorous life and wait patiently for the next occasion. Then everything would resume. He grew comfortable with this rhythm. But then something happened. One pleasant summer evening, they were walking home. Passing a tall apartment building, he felt something searing hot land on his back, left side. There was a smell of burning fabric. Before he could understand, a small hole had appeared, edges blackened and singed. His owner shouted into the void, "Idiot!" But the windows of 10 floors stared back in silence. Behind each one, someone else's life continued undisturbed. At home, the man examined the damage for a long time, sighing over his ruined possession. But late that night, almost at midnight, he carried the jacket to the dumpsters behind the building. He couldn't bring himself to throw it in with the trash, so he laid it gently beside them. The nights there, it turned out, were full of life. Cats, dogs, rats, and sometimes people rummaged endlessly through what others had discarded. At dawn, while the city still slept, he felt hands examining him. Someone checked his pockets, found an old concert ticket, and tossed it aside. A crumpled pack of gum yielded a few pieces. A hoarse voice muttered, "Chemicals," and threw them away too. Then he felt a body slip inside him. It was angular and slack at once, and it smelled of things that usually exist separately, but here had blended into a cocktail: stale tobacco, alcohol sweat, and something deeper, something unwashed and forgotten. With a satisfied grunt at the lucky find, his new owner gathered his belongings into a rustling plastic bag and shuffled away. Days turned to months. Everything was the same. Mornings spent wandering from one dumpster to the next, searching for edible scraps. Midday on busy corners, asking passers-by for cigarettes or spare change to spend on cheap beer or bottom-shelf wine. Then, hidden from sight in some basement or dead-end courtyard, sitting or lying in awkward poses, drifting through a haze. Once, he caught his reflection in a store window. His color had become indefinable. His buttons were gone. His sleeves were greasy and fraying. His soul, that delicate lining, had worn through and hung in tatters. His smell and his owner's smell had become one. Winter approached. He felt the trembling more often now. Wind cut through his threadbare fabric like it wasn't there. The only joy was finding an unlocked entrance to some building, a warm pipe in a basement. But all the doors had codes now, and residents always chased them back into the cold. On a frigid November night, he suddenly realized he was alone. Inside him, the owner had vanished. There was something stiff and cold where warmth had been, but that steady rhythm, that pulse he had grown so accustomed to, had stopped. He lay there for hours in confusion. Then, as if in a dream, feet, wheels, hands in rubber gloves touching them one last time. They were wrapped hastily in a worn, washed-out sheet and lowered into an earthen pit, a grave, that frozen word. He felt cold clumps of dirt falling onto him from above. The white light disappeared. He had returned to eternity. Above them, a wooden stake marked the spot. On it, scratched in crude letters, was a single year, 2013.